Hello and welcome back to Dirty 20s D&D. My name is Kieran.
And my name's Sophia, and this is the spoiler half of our review for the new movie Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. If you missed the previous half, pause this and go watch it and come right back.
Okay, you're back? Good. Let's get started with a rough summary of this movie. So, where do we start?
Prison.
Prison. Yes. Okay. So we start with our main characters, Edgin and Holga. The not a bard. Learned this, not a bard. He's a rogue. We learned this in the movie.
He's not a bard?
He is not a bard. He doesn't cast a single spell. He has to be a rogue. Because rogues get an instrument.
Well, then they did a really bad job at marketing him.
They did. They really made it seem like he was a bard.
He was a classic bard.
Yeah, but Holga, definitely a barbarian. Even though she doesn't do the thing that you wanted.
It wasn't clear enough to me that she was a barbarian. I wish that they would have confirmed it a little bit better.
She had to have been. She was tatted up, and that's not fighter. That's a barb.
A barb?
Yeah.
Oh, barbarian.
Yeah.
I don't know. I got confused.
That's all right. So after prison, which they break out of by jumping on an Aarakocra's back, after they were already pardoned, we cut to Neverwinter, right? Yeah. We cut to Neverwinter, more or less, where their old guy, I don't know, their con man, as they say, he's just a dude who gets them into places, became the Lord.
Yes, Hugh Grant's character.
Hugh Grant's character.
Ooh, I love Hugh Grant very much.
Yeah, so his name was Forge, was it Fitzwilliam?
I don't know his last name.
Yeah, Fitzwilliam. That's what Zank kept calling him. With Sophina, the Red Wizard in disguise, except not really, because you could always tell from the start of the movie.
No, I don't think that that's fair to say.
Really?
No, not at all. You have to remember that not everyone owns literally every book in D&D. I had no idea that she would be a Red Wizard until they showed that she was one. So, for all you people who are newer to D&D and, just...
Okay.
Not everyone is a D&D god, as we call you.
I am not.
So just maybe keep in mind that not everyone knows everything.
He had black eye paint and was covering... I don't know. It read to me as obvious. Yeah, so they're there, and they're
just a party of people that are...
Yeah.
What's his name?
Yeah, Edgin reunites with his daughter Kira, who's been being raised.
You're missing so much stuff, dude. You are missing.
No,
you absolutely
are.
Okay,
What happened?
You're missing Edgin's whole introduction. First of all, no.
Okay.
All of that happens before where you are.
It does.
Edgin is married and he becomes harper. He becomes a harper, one of those spy people. He has a daughter. And the reason why the Red Wizards matter to him in the first place is because he is working to get them, arrest them, whatever we want to call it in D&D world.
Destroy them.
And they end up killing his wife, and then he is alone with his daughter, struggling. That's how he meets what's-her-face. So you missed how he met the woman who's basically his child's mother.
I was doing this for the sake of brevity. Because we have a lot to discuss.
I'm just saying, if you're going to try and give the people a summary, you need to include the part that actually matters and drives this character's motivation throughout the whole movie. What's his motivation? To be back with his daughter.
It is, yes.
And that wouldn't have happened if his wife had never died.
Very true. You are not wrong.
So
this is meant to be for people who've seen the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, what the hell are you doing here?
Hey, maybe some people... You watch reviews all the time.
I watch non-spoiler reviews.
Not every time.
99.5% of the time.
Anyways, once his group is together, they've collected all their friends and people.
No, now we're talking about skipping stuff.
Well, no, I was more talking about before he gets arrested and such. He gets all his people together and they go to try... his wife dies, and then they're trying to get artifact that would have the ability to bring her back.
Yeah,
that's
a
that's
resurrection,
the
whatever.
main part of the movie. I mean,
Tablet of Reawakening.
Yeah, he gets separated from his daughter, and that Lord guy that was their friend was not their friend. Turns out he's bad.
Yeah, Farquaad.
Yeah,
I'm in
no,
Forge.
he's cooler than Lord Farquaad.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
He had a hot air balloon with his face on it.
He did have a hot air balloon with his face on it.
Anyway, then they, so it turns out, though, that Forge has been lying to Edgin's daughter the entire time about why she wasn't with her dad, and he turned her against Edgin. And since Edgin and Holga had broken out of prison, they, they got caught, and Forge, when they got there, was like, oh, look, they've been lying the whole time.
Yeah.
And he just uses it, which I had a feeling that was going to happen, but I was hoping he wouldn't do that. But,
yeah.
So once his daughter no longer believes in him, they decide that they're going to go and...
They're going to break in and get the tablet out.
Yeah, they're going
to... Prove themselves. So, Forge sends them out to be executed. Holga does her thing. Takes out like 8 guards with a brick.
Yep.
And then they go to recruit Simon, which was their sorcerer.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. I like him.
Yeah, he was definitely interesting. The Detective Pikachu boy. I think he did.
That was him?
Yeah.
Wow.
Justice Smith. I think he did a good job.
I think he did too.
He
played a good cowardly sorcerer.
He was a wild magic sorcerer.
Yeah.
Which I liked. I wasn't sure. So they were very tenuous on subclasses. We don't know Edgin or Holga's subclasses. We know that Simon's was wild magic. We don't know Doric's subclass, though I'm guessing from how much she wild-shaped, she's a moon druid. And Zank, a character we haven't gotten yet, we know his subclass, but we'll get there. So they get Simon. He's currently in the middle of fleecing a bunch of people.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
And then they're like, okay, what do we need to get into a vault? And then their answer is, we need someone who can wild shape. And Simon happens to know a druid.
Yeah, who he tried to get with, but his self-esteem was too low.
Yeah, his charisma was, for a sorcerer, not great charisma, which that's interesting. So they go to Doric, who is their druid. They find her rescuing someone from being ripped in half by a horse, I think. The horse had a rope attached to this person. She was tied to a tree.
Oh.
Something no bueno was going to happen to that girl.
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
So they recruit her. And from that point, they start plotting how they're going to get in. And in order to do that, they need Doric to wild shape to look at the lock. Am I glossing over anything?
No, that seems correct.
Okay. So they have Doric wild shape look at the lock. Safina, the wizard, eventual red wizard, you didn't know, whatever, realizes that there's a druid in there. It leads to a pretty good chase sequence, honestly.
I liked that. And the thing with the deer, which, I mean, if you've gone and seen the movie,
the deer thing was pretty funny.
It was pretty clear that she was eventually going to be a deer, and I'm glad that they did it the way that they did.
And speaking of that, holy crap, the special and visual effects,
very good.
Actually really good.
Yep.
I'm really glad that they took the time to get them right, because wow. So after they get out, they get the information, they realize that it's sealed with an arcane seal, some sort of Mordenkainen variant of arcane lock. They realize that they might be screwed because none of them are strong enough to break it with their own innate magic.
Yeah.
And the item to break it automatically has been lost. That is until...
Except it's not lost, which is always what happens.
Which is always what happens, because Holga's people used to know where it was until a battle 100 years ago. They lost it. So they go to the cemetery to talk with the dead.
Which was a really great... I actually thought that was very funny.
It was.
Part of the movie.
Speak with dead. Why is it 5 questions? They make a joke about how that's an arbitrary number, and you know what? It is. It's also arbitrary that their little staff of teleportation is 500 yards. Why is it not more? Why is it not less? Because it's a game.
Yep.
So, also when we're back heading towards those graves, we meet Holga's ex-husband.
Yeah, we don't need to go into great detail about that.
We don't.
But that's where she gave him some walking stick, and she's going there to collect her items. So
and she picks up the walking stick.
She brings it with her.
And it turns out to be... That's a
much better item. We can tell them in a minute.
That's a really good item. So, they go talk to the dead people, and eventually they learn that someone named Zank, a red wizard, or someone from Thay, actually. Someone from Thay. Got the helmet. There was a good person from Thay. And it turns out that everyone but Edgin actually has heard of Zank before.
Yeah, that was pretty funny as well.
Yeah.
And it really, I think, was Holga knowing who it was that made him feel like he could trust the situation. Because Edgin was not on board at all. So
they eventually convince Edgin to join them to go look for Zank, where he just pulls a tabaxi child out of a giant fish's mouth as his introduction. Yes. Delightful. And essentially, the whole conversation there leads to him being like, oh yeah, no, I had the helmet. And then I locked it in the Underdark because I didn't want anyone else to get it. And they're like, great, that's also a way for you not to have it. And so they had to go on this whole
It didn't take very long.
No, it didn't take very long.
It took probably all of 20 to 30 minutes, which...
Movie time, but yeah.
Yeah, but I did... That whole scene, though, reminded me of Shrek.
It did. Shrek or...
But in a good way.
Yeah, or a movie you haven't seen. You haven't watched the Hobbit movies.
No, I need to.
Yeah.
Everyone's gonna cancel me. I play D&D and I haven't watched any of the Lord of the Rings.
Ember Shard. Overweight red dragon. Loved it.
Yes, loved him. That part reminded me of like How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah.
Just because there are fat dragons in there, and it was funny.
So they got the helmet back, and then Zank left the story. Oh, another thing awesome we got to see in that scene. Zank divine smiting.
Yeah, he was cool. Really good.
He was like all the.
Was actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That scene also had the weird CG dust. There was this weird moment.
That did not...
There was just a lot of, like, fake dust on top of something, and Zank, like, blew it off, and it looked really weird. That's, like, the one shot that I didn't think the special effects held up on.
I don't even remember it, so it's probably not as bad as he says it is.
Probably not, but I wrote a note about it. Once we're done down in the Underdark, Simon's having some issue attuning to that helmet. It's not, not like
and to be fair... Edgin knew that he would have trouble and potentially not even be able to, and the group gets pretty mad at him for hiding that. But you know, as things happen, they work it out.
Yeah, they changed their tactic a little bit and came up with a different plan that involved teleportation.
Yes, which is always, in my opinion, a great way to accomplish things.
It is
portals and teleportation.
Portals, literally the portal gun. So they start working on that, and it's right at... So they managed to get a portrait with a portal on it into the vault. It's face down, but they deal with it. On the other half, the 2 members of the party are heading...
Oh, and also, what's his face?
They split the party.
Zank is only there for, like, the 20 to 30 minutes that he's helping them, which, I mean, we're gonna... go into questions and stuff, but that was something that I did not really like because, I mean, all these actors are great, but as a Bridgerton fan and just, you know, I think he's a good actor, pretty upset that I felt like he was marketed to be a member of the party and he was not there for a majority of the movie.
He was an NPC guide.
Yeah, the whole time I was wondering, hey, when's this guy gonna show up? He shows up and then he's like, peace out.
So after that, they start work. They split the party. Holga.
Never a good idea. In my opinion.
Holga and Simon head for one side of they head for the vault door where Simon is hoping he can get that helmet to work, while Doric stays behind to get the portal thing to work. Edgin also then heads to try and find his daughter Kira and get her out of the city. So in the chaos, it is really long because I was gonna skip over a bunch, and then you were like, "Don't skip over anything." So we're doing this. Doric manages to get in, but she is knocked out by a guard and realizes she's not in the vault, she's by the dock. Holga and Simon get into the vault by attuning to the helmet, and he casts like a thunder wave or something, is my guess.
I thought that was just him when the helmet went on him. And
no, he cast a spell.
Oh.
Yeah, he cast a spell.
I wish they had made that a little bit clearer.
They get into the vault, but it turns out that it's empty, and then tentacles. And then Edgin, I think those were Evard's black tentacles. I think that was the spell.
You're asking the wrong person. I do not know.
Yeah. And Edgin manages to find his daughter Kira, but it's not Kira, it's actually Safina, the wizard in disguise, where she captures him, and then he convinces Forge to let them fight instead of just dying to tentacles. So that gets them some time by going down to the arena, and then arena stuff, gelatinous cube, displacer beast,
the gelatinous
maze.
cube made me happy, but I am upset that it was not neon green. It being clear was just a little...
Well, it's supposed to be clear, because you're supposed to miss it and run into it.
Oh, well, yeah. I think it being green is way better, personally.
Looks like a big cube of jello. They get out of there by going underneath when the arena's things slot down in the cube.
Uh-huh.
They escape that, make it to the docks with the treasure ship.
And his daughter.
And his daughter. Just when Forge shows up. They finally convince Kira that Forge has been lying to her the whole time. Mm-hmm. They're about to leave the city, and then death and destruction reigns from above, and they're like, fuck, I guess we turn around. So, they turned around.
They give all the gold back.
They give all the gold back to the people, which
Edgin has promised, to be fair.
Edgin promised he was going to do. And then they got Safina to pay attention to them by doing that. And then the whole fight, which was like insane, that is what it's like to go up against a really high-level wizard.
Yeah, and it was a very good fight.
It was a very good fight. Was just around getting an anti-magic bracelet onto Safina's wrist, at which point Doric Hulk smashes her into the ground so hard as an owlbear. So insanely hard. After that, her magic ends. Former Lord and Neverwinter.
Everything is well.
Everything is kind of well because, Holga dies. And then Holga comes back.
Which, I mean, I don't know. I knew that was going to happen the second that...
When Holga had the spike in her chest, I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's where it's going to get used. But it was still... I'm
glad they did that, honestly. It was the right choice
It was the right choice. Because I feel like given all of that... Especially with the flashback, they definitely made you see Holga as Kira's actual mother.
I think that's accurate. I think that... Just, I'm glad that they chose to bring back the person that the daughter needed more than the person that the husband needed.
Exactly.
Which, to be fair, I would argue that he needed her just as much.
Yeah. And then they're named Heroes of the Realm. It was
giving Vox Machina.
It was kind of giving Vox Machina vibes.
It wasn't a bad thing. I mean, who doesn't want their party to be crowned Heroes of the Realm?
Exactly.
I think everybody wants that, even if you're evil.
Yeah. So,
I'd say that's the summary.
That's kind of the end of the summary. That was 20 minutes.
Sorry, everybody. You might want to skip through all that.
That's fine. Chapters exist, so they can just click to the end of the chapter.
Yeah, maybe tell them
that
they might want to skip that.
Okay, so now, we just mentioned it, so we might as well jump into it. You compared it to Vox Machina. not in terms of do you like this or that more. Do you feel as though this was as much of D&D as Legend of Vox Machina? Do you feel it was more D&D, less D&D? Did it feel like a game?
So here's the thing. I don't think it's very fair to compare them. I think they're two very different things. One of them is based off an actual D&D campaign that was played and has been recorded.
Yeah.
For this, in my mind, I hope that maybe they made character sheets for these people and, you know, kind of engaged them with D&D. But I think that they are fundamentally different and therefore should not be compared to one another. So I can't really answer that question, and I'm not going to, because I just don't think it's fair. I think Vox Machina is amazing, but I would say, I guess to answer the question, it is more D&D, but I only think that because it's based off a campaign of people playing D&D.
The Vox Machina, you mean?
Yeah. This is just, you're watching a D&D adventure. Yeah. It still feels like D&D, but I don't think that they are the same, because when I watch Vox Machina, I'm assigning Marisha, Liam, all of them as to the characters that I'm watching. Whereas this, they are the only character.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, so there's no disconnect.
Yeah.
Well, not disconnect. There is no delightful association between a player and their character. Yeah,
exactly. And, like, which also helps me personally, like, when I'm watching Vox Machina and a character is making a decision, I think to myself, yeah, that makes sense for that person and this character, which I know information about. Compared to this, where I don't know who's playing them, I don't know the decisions they made to create this character, excuse me.
no, it's fine. Clayface from Harley Quinn. Character. Oh!
Yeah, but, yeah, that's why I just don't think that you can really compare them.
Fair. Absolutely fair. So, then we should get into more sort of actual things specifically about this movie that you both liked and didn't like. So, do you want to start with something that you actually really liked about this movie? Like a specific element?
I really like the music. I'm a very sound and visual person, for those of you in the audience. The story, for me, usually will take a backseat to how things look and how they feel and how they sound. Because to me, if those things aren't working, then your story doesn't really even matter. You can have a great story, but terrible visuals, bad music, and it doesn't matter. I won't want to watch it again.
Yeah, fair.
So, to me, you know me, I love bagpipes. College that I went to used bagpipes. It's part of our tradition and heritage. And so ever since then, bagpipes have been special to me. And also I am an avid Outlander fan. So, bagpipes, I just really love them. And they were a really large element of the music in the movie. So I would say that the visuals and music was something I really liked about it. What about you?
I loved that they fully went into it and just had every race and creature that would naturally appear. That they found practical ways to do Tabaxi, Dragonborn, Aarakocra. It wasn't just CGI.
It was very like Star Wars.
It was like Star Wars that they did this stuff practically, and it worked really well. They weren't afraid. They did the Underdark. They did magical mazes. They were just like, we're going to write this.
That you can still do those things. And I mean, we don't talk about Marvel on our channel much. And if you haven't seen Ant-Man Quantumania and you don't want a spoiler, don't listen to the words I am about to say.
I'll put a timestamp.
But, you and I have talked about, I love, Ant-Man is one of my favorite of the Avengers, and I love the first movie. I really like the second one. The third one, the plot was good, but this kind of goes back to that, and to be fair, I would give the Ant-Man movie probably an 8, maybe even an 8.5, just because I love Paul Rudd. But that whole movie looked CGI, and I had huge problems with that. And I was really hoping going into this movie that it would not be like that. And to
It
my
wasn't.
delight, it was not. And there were hardly times where I was like, this looks like it's all CGI. Even the scene where they're in the Underdark or whatever.
It looked really good.
It looked real.
It looked really good.
Like, obviously I'm not stupid. Dragons aren't real, but maybe they are. And, you know, I just felt like...
Even the intellect devourers, which obviously had to be
were really
CG,
cool.
they looked correct.
They did.
They looked good. And, like...
They looked how
wow.
you know, as a player, envision them to be in your mind. Just a little dude.
Yeah. So you also already mentioned something with this. What's one thing you didn't like?
Well, as I already said, Mr. Zink needed to be there more. Upset I didn't get to see... Well, okay, and this is debatable. I wanted to see at least one man shirtless. Okay? I wanted either Chris Pine, Zink, even Simon would have been fine. But just, especially with Chris Pine being in a movie, I almost expect a shirtless scene. However, I will say, I don't know where they would have put it. I think that the movie was perfectly fine without it. Like, it almost wouldn't have made sense for there to be one, because there was no, like, romantic interest for any of the characters to, like, be kind of showing off to. So I'm fine that they didn't put that in there, but I was kind of hoping that there would be one. And I don't know, something else I didn't like. I didn't like Sofina's outfit.
The fake cover up with the head thing.
It just like, to me, I'm sorry, but if you're evil and you're pretending you're not, you need to make it a little less obvious.
You got black eye makeup.
She did do a terrible job. It's my fault that I didn't know what red wizards were supposed to look like, but it doesn't mean I didn't think she looked sus. She did.
She looked like a lich trying to pretend they're alive.
And I didn't really like her head covering. Like, I think that they could have done something a little bit, you know, nicer, just something that flowed a little bit more instead of just like a weird kind of cap that she had. I liked the hood that she had in general, but yeah, that was something that I didn't really like. What about you?
Well, I didn't like that the marketing lied to us about Edgin's class. He was not a bard.
At what point did they say he was a rogue, though? Or a fighter?
I'm 99% sure he's a rogue, because they keep calling him a scoundrel, and he comes up with plans and tactics. He has a lute, but he doesn't cast spells. Scanlan is a bard because he has a lute and uses it to cast magic. This movie is not...
He didn't cast a spell at all.
This movie is not afraid to do weird shit. They're not afraid to say, oh yeah, I have a talisman that lets me cast Speak with Dead. If he was going to be a bard, his lute was going to cast spells. Right. They weren't going to...
Yeah, I will say, the marketing, I think, could have been better. I also kind of expected a little bit, maybe a few more traditional D&D beasts and situations to occur. I was happy I got my mimic. Before we went to the movie, we kind of had a conversation of what we wanted to see. I wanted to see a mimic. I wanted for the barbarian to say I would like to rage.
Didn't get that.
I didn't get that. I was pretty upset. Not pretty upset, but like, it irked me. Yeah, and I just wish that maybe we had just seen a few more, you know, maybe they had fought a few more classical beasts, not just guards, but...
Yeah. Thinking back on it, currently from this moment, I gave the movie a 7.5 where my average is a 7, and I'm struggling to find things that I dislike about it.
Yeah, well, you're like that.
Yeah. Maybe I need to reflect more.
Yeah, I think probably.
I don't really know. I mean, like, thinking about the movie on a whole, it did kind of... It didn't really do very much wrong. There was a lot of really, really good things about it. It set things up well. I would say that it was a very complicated movie, but at least the pace was really solid. So it
complicated how?
We took 20 minutes to do the recap.
That's just you and me being disorganized and dysfunctional. That's not not an error of the movie.
No, I don't say complicated in a bad way. I don't say complicated in a bad. I just say the movie had a lot going on. It wasn't as simple as John Wick Chapter 3. He runs away from everyone.
I think, okay, well, John Wick is always uncomplicated, which is why I don't like John Wick very much.
I do. I'm really excited. I'm gonna go alone.
I'll watch it with you at home. But, the thing about D&D, though, is that it is always complicated. I mean, if you watch our campaign, we've been trying to go to a place for the last 2 sessions, and still we have not gone there. We have said, let's do this other thing really quick. And that's what happens all the time in D&D to all of us who play. That literally is unavoidable. There is always times where you gotta go make a stop to go get your shit, or you gotta go to a magic shop or something because you need more tools. Like, I think... And the other thing, too, is when you're in a party of people, you got a lot of loose ends you got to tie up before you can just go and do stuff. So I think that I understand you're not saying that the complicated is bad.
No.
But I'm going to say that I think complication is a natural part of D&D, and that it almost wouldn't have made sense to not have it be complicated.
Very true.
What about D&D is straightforward? Ever. It never is straightforward.
Yeah, that's very accurate.
It makes sense that they would need to go and get some random artifact that no one has seen in thousands of years or however long, and that, you know, they're going to have problems getting his daughter on board, and someone's going to be stuck in prison, and, like, all these things. There's always, like... Yeah, just think about when you're playing a game of D&D, all the complications that come up when you're trying to achieve something.
Definitely.
Like, what's her name? The druid. The
druid.
Doric. Them having trouble with the portal, with their painting. It makes perfect sense. That shit would happen.
It would. Especially, I get the sense that this DM, kind of a dick. The painting falls over. Yeah. Yep. There was one other moment that I'm like, wow, the DM is rude. Shoot, what was it? I can't remember at the moment. But I'm like, that's the DM just deciding to be mean. No, it's alright, it's alright. We had a long day. Do you want to wrap this up now with what was your favorite spell of the movie? It's a little
difficult. I don't think that that's fair.
Well, okay, I'm going to read off every spell, and you're going to say which ones...
I can say which one's my favorite, but I think we should go through and say what our favorite part was.
Your favorite part?
Okay. If you can think of one.
No, I think I can. I'm between 3, and I'm going to narrow it down by the end of the time that I...
You think about that while I talk about which one was my favorite. Okay, I technically have 2, but one of them is just a shot, so I don't think it counts. But this goes back to when I was talking about just kind of the cinematography and the fact that they shot live in a lot of these locations. It was towards the beginning, they had 4 on horseback. I can't remember if this was when he was still with the Harpers or if this is after his wife died. But there was just a really lovely shot of them. They were kind of like on their horses by a stream. And it just like, it very much reminded me of Outlander and just like being in nature in that medieval way where like you don't have a phone, you don't, it's back in the olden days. Yeah. You don't have anything. You're just traveling on horseback. So I really liked that shot. But my favorite part, I feel like I really loved when they were struggling to get the portal painting into the
cart?
Into the cart. Like that whole sequence of them figuring out like, okay, we're gonna go get this and we're gonna, like that whole sequence. And like, even though I'm gonna include the part of Doric, yes. Doric. Like, this is a little bit more separate, but like the parts where she's struggling and trying to chip away at the table, at like the floor technically, like I can include that as well. Like I just really loved that plot point.
The inventiveness.
And like
It felt like the players
it just was like a very D&D moment where you're like, oh shit, wait a minute, what if we did this crazy ass thing and then it works and you're like, oh my god, we actually did it, and then unfortunately something foils your plan. But so to me, like that, the inventiveness and creativeness, like, because it's just one of those things too where someone had to write the movie and someone had to say, like, this, just in my head, I imagine like a group of people trying to figure this out, and one of them saying, what if we had them do this?
Exactly.
And it's the same way of when you're playing D&D and you're like, what if we did this? And so I think that's part of why I liked it so much.
Okay. I think I've narrowed it down.
Even just 2.
And okay. I really liked Doric's escape sequence with the dozen wild shapes. Yes. I really liked that. But I think I enjoyed the Underdark section the most.
That part
it had
really good.
A lot of inventive sequences. I really liked the visuals of the different areas. So the Underdark is different sections of caverns that all interlock with each other underneath the surface of like a massive section of the planet.
Okay.
So this just being one little bit of it, it had its own unique atmosphere and environment, and it felt like this was, I mean, it had rivers of magma. That's not everywhere in the Underdark. It felt very, like a DM had a really cool idea. They knew that it wouldn't work anywhere else, but they could get it to work in the Underdark, and as such, they could be even more creative because, a dragon could just be sitting down there. There could be an entire Mind Flayer army down there if you wanted. The Intellect Devourers were evidence enough.
I would have liked if the dragon had a bit of a horde, personally.
It did.
I didn't see it.
It was sitting on top of gold. That was what all of that was.
That was all skulls and bones.
No, there was gold there as well, I swear. Is that blind?
Yes.
Okay.
That was all skulls. Or, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I really don't think so, because the whole time I was sitting there thinking, where's this guy's gold?
I thought that was... Okay, maybe I'm just completely...
Well, because I thought it was at first, too, and then I looked closer, and I was like, no, that all looks like skulls. I think this guy has eaten all of these people. Which, in a way, you could consider that a horde in its own, but it's not worth anything.
No. It's worth intimidation.
Yeah.
That's about it. Alright, are you ready for the list of spells that I noticed in the movie?
Yes.
I wrote down every one that I saw.
Yes.
In rough order, we had Fog Cloud, Time Stop, Reverse Gravity, plus Produce Flame and Prestidigitation, as well as maybe Mage Hand? It was either Mage Hand or Telekinesis, but Telekinesis is a 5th level spell. There was no floating hand, but when he was moving the gold all around the room. I think it might have actually been Telekinesis, because he mentioned Telekinesis later in the movie. Arcane Lock, Speak with Dead, Major Image, Thunder Wave, Control Water, Meteor Swarm, Animate Object, Misty Step, and then that was Bigby's hand. I'm pretty sure of it.
2 of them.
No. Simon's was Earthen Grasp. I don't remember the name of the wizard that did that. Hers was Bigby's hand because it was floating. His was attached to the ground. So it was Earthen Grasp. Probably a couple other miscellaneous spells. I think at one point Simon magic missiled in that final fight. I think there was a magic missile.
If he did, I'm sad that I didn't really that I can't remember
it was like some cyan bolts of energy. I think it was magic missile. Shield as well, and like there was a force bubble of some sort, so it could have been like anti-magic field or something weird. There's a different spell that clerics, sorcerers, and wizards get as well that I can't think of. But
you would know more than me.
Yeah, I can't think of it off the top of my head. I know that Caduceus used it in campaign 2.
Weirdly, I got really excited at the beginning to see Simon use Fog. It was the first spell we saw, but especially to see like some of the more approachable spells that, this is my first time really being able, like, having a character that uses spells. So to be able to see some of them on a screen, like, they might not match up what I envisioned before or will in the future. But I think it's interesting to see different people's takes on what a spell would look like.
Mm-hmm. Say, I really liked Misty Step.
I don't remember seeing it happen, which sucks.
Safina was blipping around the battlefield. She was turning into mist and then reappearing within like pretty close range of each one. Okay. That's what leads me to believe it was Misty Step. Meteor Swarm was also really thick. Cool. Meteor Swarm was awesome. At first, I thought it was fireballs, and I looked over at her and I'm like, there's your fireballs. We did see one, I think, at one point.
No, I think we got a fireball.
I think we got a fireball.
I'd be actually surprised, and I said this before, that fireball is such a classic D&D just thing. I can't imagine that it was not there just once.
But yeah, when it turned out to be Meteor Swarm, I'm just like, okay, so she's not messing around.
No.
She also used 2 9th level spell slots, Meteor Swarm and Time Stop, which means that she is probably using a stat block equivalent to like a Sararak. Because no one else gets 2 9th level spells but him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's actually a pretty natural place to end this. Yeah. All in all, good movie. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. Go check out our Patreon. We'd love for you to support us and continue making more things like this possible. So yeah, thank you all for watching, guys. Anything else you want to say?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, that's it for today then, guys. So, bye.